Am I the asshole for saying no when my family said I should let my sister have her honeymoon at my house? Backstory. My house used to belong to my parents. But they sold it to me in 2017. It had been a family vacation home of sorts. Every couple years when my grandparents were alive they'd invite us kids up there for a week. Fast forward to the end of 2016. My sister got accepted to her dream college. Won't say which, but it's a big one. Everyone was excited and proud of her, me too. But a week after that my parents called asking if I'd found a house yet. I was looking for one and my family knew it. I'd been saving up since I started my first job at 20. I said no, so my dad suggested I buy the lake house from them. I asked why they wanted to sell it. Turns out sis didn't have any savings for college and didn't get some scholarship like she'd planned. And our parents couldn't afford to pay for everything either. I asked why she didn't get student loans and they said they didn't want her ruining her credit. So their solution was to sell the lake house and use the money from that to finance her college. I had lots of good memories from the lake house, so eventually I agreed. I work via computer, so after getting a good internet connection out there I moved right in, and been there since. My girlfriend moved in permanently last year before lockdown and it's been pretty blissful. 2019 my sister and her college boyfriend got engaged. Parents agreed to pay for her wedding. But like with every other wedding around then, things got set back. Sis had to postpone her wedding until this year. She plans to have it in Dec. I even agreed to be in the bridal party. Issues came up recently when my sis asked where I was going to stay for the 2 weeks after her wedding. Puzzled, I answered my house. She got a sour look and said that wouldn't work, her and fiancé would be there and they wanted private time. I asked why they'd be at my house and she said that's where they were having their honeymoon. 2 weeks alone at a lake house. I said that was news to me. She insisted our parents said it was fine. But I said it wasn't their place to make decisions about my house. After arguing she called our parents, who said I was being unreasonable. I said I didn't want my sister and her fiancé christening their new union by fucking in my house. They said I was being gross and selfish. I said no again, so sis threatened to remove me from the bridal party. I just shrugged and said okay. She starts crying, saying she already couldn't have her dream wedding like she wanted and now I was trying to ruin her honeymoon too. I told her to rent a hotel room like every other newlywed couple, then hung up. She's not speaking to me and I'm uninvited to the wedding. Our parents keep calling me and saying I should do this for her since her wedding is only 1/3 what she wanted it to be. But I'm not comfortable with them staying unsupervised at my house. They're making me feel like a monster for saying no. Am I the asshole? Edit. Well, learned something new today. I spoke to my sister like a few people suggested and asked her if she knew the lake house was legally my house. As in, I bought it years ago. She was not in fact aware of this. She was under the impression from our parents that they were letting me live there rent-free. I corrected her and even showed her proof that they sold the house to me. And when she asked why they sold it I was honest and said it was to pay for her college tuition, lifestyle. She became quiet after that and we soon hung up. No idea what's going to happen now. IDK if it's just me, but the favoritism is shining brighter than the sun. Not the asshole, your sister is crazy for expecting that before even conforming with you, lol. Not the asshole. They don't have money to cover for her education to the point of selling a house, but they do for her wedding? She doesn't get to guilt you for already not having her dream wedding because she chose to get married at a time in which she still depends on her parents. What she needs is a reality check, not a wedding, until your parents stop treating her like their little princess. She's gonna be a lost cause, which you don't have to take any responsibility for. Not the asshole. Does your sister actually know that you bought the house from your parents so they could fund her college? This is so weird. I wonder if she thinks they are just letting you live there and they have been too embarrassed to tell her. It's weird that your parents would help your sister plan a honeymoon to your house without asking you. Has there been an apology for that, along with berating you? Not the asshole. Not the asshole, and gross to be honest. It's your house, not a hotel, and no one can force you to do this. Also, they would probably use the master bedroom for their activities. No. Not the asshole. Your parents are enabling her way too much. If you haven't changed the locks since moving in, do it ASAP. Not the asshole at all, it's your house. Edit. Give your sister the invoice for the 2-week holiday she's paying for you and your girlfriend as they are using your house and expecting you to leave. Make sure it includes plane tickets and the honeymoon suite at a 5-star hotel. Lol, sorry, it's late, your post cracked me up. Not the asshole. I cannot imagine the conflated, Circular thinking your family engages in that makes your family think the home they urged to buy and work from home was their honeymoon cottage and vacation destination. What are you supposed to do when everyone treats your home like a vacation cottage? Do they expect you to live and work in your car in a random parking lot while they enjoy the views and do the nasty? Am I the asshole, F18, for not responding to an apology letter from my ex-stalker, M18? So to get this clear, I personally don't consider him to be a stalker. I think that it's quite harsh as he's never followed me home. But my friends beg to differ, and so I have opted to call him that for this story. I met ex-stalker in junior high and we were in multiple same classes. Me being the social freshman wanted to befriend anyone that had similar interests, in this case, movies, anime and music, and we managed to become casual friends. He would often gift me various things from cafeteria food to an expensive-looking necklace, to which I refused due to discomfort. Things started to escalate through the years as he would ask my friends to set up hangouts, offer to drive me around with his chauffeur, and even gift me with wads of money during the holidays. According to my friends, most people knew of his crush on me but thought it was cute, due to his nice and likable demeanor. Truth be told, I was more disappointed in his friends for putting me in uncomfortable situations than the ex-stalker, brushing it off as puppy love, etc. There were many other instances that are too long to mention, but I became wearier of him throughout the years, still feeling the need to be friends with him as I didn't want to come off as rude or mean to him or others. I remember some days I would lay awake and wonder if I was just the weird person for overthinking as everyone else seemed to love him. Last year, due to COVID, high school became online and I no longer had any means to talk to him, feeling the stress at the back of my head leave me. I also decided to block him on all social media platforms without reason, as he would often spam me on there. I grew tired of answering and pretending to be nice. This is where the ex-stalker decided to send me a physical apology letter through one of his friends that I talked to, probably because it's our senior year and at this point, it had been going on for about 5 years. I personally wanted to come to a resolve and forgive him and was somewhat hopeful to read the letter. To my disappointment, the letter was a full-blown love confession in the pretense of an apology letter. Although there were a few sorry's here and there within the 4-page letter, I was not able to read out a clear apology as it was written in metaphors and poetry-like writing. 90% of the letter consisted of why he fell for me, and his internal battle between wanting to be friends or lovers, his words not mine. Many of my friends responded saying that I should forgive him and that it was such a thoughtful and romantic gesture for him to do. I was too overwhelmed with my thoughts and too underwhelmed with his apology that I decided to not respond or act at all. So fellow Redditors, am I the asshole and just overthinking everything? And also, how should I respond to this? And #X200B. Edit. I would like to note that although I was given all these things, I never once accepted them as I was too uncomfortable to do so. The reason why I still opted to label him a stalker was because he would location track me digitally and confirm with my friends. However, as it is not the stereotypical following to the house, I was on the fence. And #X200B. Thank you for reading this very long post. I'd appreciate any feedback, positive or not. Not the asshole. Absolutely do not respond to someone who is trying to manipulate you. And block those people who think that letter is romantic. They're just as warped as he is. A letter that is all about him, about being friends versus lovers with someone who was never interested in him. Yikes. Edit to add. Absolutely cut him off. His, and your mutual friends, continually ignoring boundaries is worrisome. Not the asshole, you need to go to the police immediately. I've been stalked and in the end but a few others things caused me to leave the state. I still keep something to use as a weapon by the door and it's always locked. Please pick up some mice and always watch your surroundings. Not the asshole. You owe him nothing. Wow, you really buried the lead with this one. He has tracked your location before? That is the literal definition of stalker. Do not respond to his letter and hold on to it for evidence. Make a copy, too. If he escalates, then file a restraining order. You weren't overthinking it. This behavior, especially as you had shown you weren't interested, refusing gifts, expressing discomfort, etc., is not normal. Distance yourself from him, please, and also distance yourself from those who think the letter, his behavior is endearing or sweet. He is extremely manipulative. He obviously fooled your friends, but luckily he didn't fool you. Not the asshole. You shouldn't feel obligated to respond, forgive him, or any of that. He should have respected that you blocked him and left it alone. This is just, wow. First of all, you are not the asshole for not responding to his downright creepy love letter. There is coming on strong, and then there's that. If you do choose to respond to it, the only advice I can offer is treat it like a band-aid. Yes, it will suck. Yes, it will hurt him, but in the end it may be the only he will let go of his crush on you. Ps. Your friends watch too many Hallmark movies if they think that was a thoughtful and romantic gesture. Not the asshole. If you move away anytime soon, I'd go as far as to make sure your friends that talk to him don't have your address. And make sure your location services are just turned off. Don't allow anything to find your location, other than maps. He might still be trying to stalk you. Also, that is definitely stalking. I'm sure he followed you if he went as far as to view your location digitally. Not the asshole. Even if it had been an actual apology, you wouldn't be obligated to forgive him or respond. I think you were smart to block him, and I would tell your friends to stop talking to you about him. You aren't interested, and he has made you uncomfortable for many years with this. Definitely don't respond. He won't see any difference between a yes and a no, and any response will only encourage him. Am I the asshole for wanting to ban my grandma from my wedding? Am I the asshole for not wanting my grandma at my wedding? Bit of background. My boyfriend and I are getting married in February 2023. The grandma I'm referring to is my dad's mom. My grandma is borderline sociopathic, if not an actual sociopath. My grandfather, her husband, died when I was 16 years ago. I was extremely close with him. I love him and miss him every day. My boyfriend and I are autistic, and I think my grandpa may have been on the spectrum, too. She was an awful wife to him. She's manipulative, a cheater, and a criminal apologist. When my dad and his older brother were children, they walked in on her cheating on my grandpa with one of his friends. She isolated him from us grandkids near the end of his life, and he sunk further into alcoholism. She complained about him growing old and said she never wanted to take care of him. When he died, she made a mockery of it. She won't let our wounds heal. She married his worst enemy on the anniversary of his birthday and tried to shove her new husband down our throat for a decade. She only visits his grave to get pity points and to avoid criticism. She's been trying to manipulate us grandkids into accepting her adopted son back into our lives, despite him being a self-admitted and convicted child, you know. My sister gave her a scrapbook to fill with pictures of her and us together, but she filled them with pictures of the monster instead. Much to my sister's horror. Fast forward to my cousin's wedding. She pulls the usual drama, chases my dad around, physically running after him to harass and guilt-trip him, talks about monster, clings onto the father of the bride, gets mad when my sister asked to get a turn to dance with our oldest cousin, yells at my sister, yanks my sister by her hair hard in the middle of the dance floor, pretends to be innocent, tries to intrude on me and my boyfriend slow dancing, and hurling insults at me the whole rest of the trip. She's a menace, but Dad says I should try to be compassionate because she's 80 and no one likes her. She has dementia and won't have too many years left. She's one of the only grandparents I have left. I do kinda feel bad about that. It hurts that she and I don't have a healthy relationship. I've tried for my whole life to be close to her. She spurns me every time. He only helps her out of guilt, even though she manipulates and mistreats him to the point of him getting very ill from stress whenever he sees her. The way I see it, I wish she would have died instead of my grandpa. She has nobody but her mean-spirited husband and pet monster to support her because she's a vindictive human being who loves no one but herself. I don't want her at my wedding because she will make it all about her and she'll start fights. Too long did not read. My dad thinks I should give her another chance despite her being a malignant narcissist. I'm extremely hesitant to. Am I in the wrong? Edit. Wow, more responses than I thought. Let me clarify some things. I have an incredible relationship with my dad. He's a great guy, no thanks to her. He would never force me to have her at my wedding. He simply wanted me to think long and hard about it. My dad would never force me to do something I'm not comfortable with. He just wants me to evaluate it carefully. Being old isn't an excuse for her terrible behavior. Cut her loose, not the asshole. If dear old dad can't understand this concept, dump him too. Not the asshole. Do not invite her. Keep your ground. If anyone decides to bring her, then kick her out. You are older now and get to decide what family to keep in your life, and this sociopath does not sound like family. I hope your wedding goes well. Not the asshole. If your grandma's history of bad behavior wasn't enough of a reason to ban her from the wedding, then her actions at your cousin's wedding is surely enough. She basically gave you a preview as to what your wedding will be like if you do decide to invite her. Who cares if she's 80 and no one likes her? She brought that on herself by being such a horrible person. I'm so sorry that you and your family has to deal with someone like that. Not the asshole no one gets to tell you with whom you have a familial relationship. Period. This is your wedding and you should be surrounded by those you love and who genuinely love you in return. Congrats on the upcoming nuptials and may it be all you've dreamt. Grin. Not the asshole. If you don't want to invite her to your wedding, that's your prerogative. It also sounds like you have plenty of reason to not want her there on the day, in terms of her track record for wedding behavior. If she has dementia, she may not be that aware of the situation and therefore may be less likely to be upset by it anyway, though in the post it doesn't sound like you've had her opinion. Just your dad's, and guess what? It's not his wedding. You don't need to gamble with the happiest day of your life to make your dad feel you've sufficiently fulfilled your obligation to other people. Not the asshole. I've seen obituaries of people like her where the family were honest about how awful the deceased was. Be honest about it in life and protect yourself. Not the asshole. If your grandma's history of bad behavior wasn't enough, then her actions at your cousin's wedding are surely enough. She basically gave you a preview as to what will happen if you do invite her. Who cares if she's 80 and no one likes her? She brought that on herself by being such a shitty human being. I'm so sorry you and your family has to deal with her. Not the asshole. Cut her off completely. Am I the asshole for telling me son about my mental illness? So me, 39M, and my ex, 41F, separated when my son was 2 years old. He is 16 now. We are on generally good terms. My son and I have always been close, but in the last year he began to get distant. I wasn't wholly surprised. The pandemic was very difficult, and he's a teenager who's under stress. I was obviously worried, but he's never hesitated to tell me things in the past, so I figured he would tell me when he was ready, and made sure he knew I was there for him. About a week ago, he came into the living room and asked if we could talk. He seemed really nervous and upset, but after some gentle coaxing he told me that over the past year or so, something scary has started to happen. He said he's been having thoughts about really horrible things happening to me, to his mom, to his friends, and that he feels that if he doesn't do certain things, lock the door properly, check the car, something terrible will occur and he'll be to blame. He can't sleep or focus and he feels so tired and miserable and he doesn't know what's happening to him. He was in tears by now. Immediate alarm bells were going off. I was diagnosed with severe OCD around his age, and it was a living nightmare. What he described sounded like a lot of my own symptoms. The first thing I did was thank him for telling me, and told him I loved him and that whatever was going on, we'd figure it out and that I was proud of him. He cried for a long time, and it absolutely broke my heart. He asked if I thought he was crazy, and I said no. I then said that whilst I didn't know exactly how he felt or what he was going through, I also struggled with scary thoughts when I was his age, and that I was sure he must be scared right now, but that he didn't have to keep this to himself anymore. I said that something that had really helped me was talking to someone, and whilst he didn't have to do anything he didn't want. Did that sound like something that might help? He said it was. I told my ex the next morning, and whilst she was obviously worried, she was glad we knew. I made my son an appointment with a therapist and have been keeping an eye on him. Whilst I feel guilty he has been dealing with this alone, I'm so glad he trusted me enough to tell me. A few days later, I got a phone call from my ex and she was furious. She said that my son had said to her, "I feel better knowing Dad knows what it feels like." She said that she couldn't believe I would unload on him like that, and that I had convinced him he was mentally ill and needed help. I told her I had never mentioned mental illness, I hadn't tried to diagnose him with anything, and that I never forced him to see a therapist. She said I was biased because of what I'd been through, and we argued back and forth before hanging up. Now I worry it might have been the wrong move, as I never wanted to influence him in any way. I love him so much and I want to give him the empathy and support I didn't have, but I also don't want my concerns to impact his thoughts in any way. Am I the asshole for telling my son about my own struggles? Not the asshole. You did greatest thing any parent could do in that situation. You reacted strongly and so brilliantly to your son's first time approaching you with his mental health, and you wholeheartedly accepted him. You have to be number one in his books now, his guardian angel. I remember my first time and only time trying to talk to my parents and the reaction your ex gave you after the couple of days. What are you even talking about? There can't be anything wrong with you. Who's made you think you're sick? These were some of the responses I got, which sounds a little bit like what your ex could have done when she heard all of this. Whatever you're so op, don't do anything different to what you would do. You're doing an amazing job. Your ex is very obtuse. Mental illness can be hereditary. Not only are you not the asshole. I say your son has a right to know all of his parents' major medical history because it could impact his life. Not the asshole. First, he came to you with his problem. Second, he is old enough to know about certain issues. Also, some mental illnesses can be hereditary, or you have higher chance of developing these if someone in your family has it. He deserved to know. Not the asshole. He came to you first, and the way your ex reacted may be an indicator over why he did. He probably didn't want to tell her because he was concerned she would react the way she is with you. You did the right thing and help him. If you are in the US, the courts always will say to do what's in the best interest of the child. That's what you did, and your ex needs to understand that. Not the asshole. It sounds like you have something you can help your son with, as you two have experienced something similar. Your ex should be happy your son was comfortable enough to talk to you about it. Too many people do not talk about it, and we need to be talking about these things. You are a good dad. Keep doing what you feel is right. You have just as much to talk to your son how you want to try and help him. Not the asshole. It sounds like you told him in a sympathetic way rather than saying, "Me too," and making it about you. Your ex sounds like she is worried by the mental health stigma, and maybe how it reflects on her, and your son adopting that label. Hopefully you can get through that. Lots of people suffer with their mental health. That is well recognized and accepted by many, however there is still bias and discrimination around it, as I'm sure you know. Not the asshole. As a man who struggled with mental illness growing up, I wish I had confided in my father, because now I'm older I know he would have supported me wholeheartedly just like you are. Keep your head high. You're an incredible father. Absolutely not the asshole in any way. You were kind and supportive of your son and opened up about your own problems in order to help him. Your son even said that he felt better after your talk. If your ex thinks you shouldn't open up, even in order to help your son, that seems pretty manipulative, and it's a problem with her, not you.